What's up guys, my name is Josh and welcome to another review of the Audeze LCD X. Now I've had the LCD 2Cs here, the 3s here, I've got the Mobius back there, review coming soon, I've had the EL8 Opens, the EL8 Titaniums, and at RMAF I tried pretty much the entire LCD lineup including the LCD 4s, and by a fairly large margin these are my favorite Audeze headphones. And I want to tell you why. Now, before we jump into that, I do want to let you guys know that I am still doing the cable giveaway for this one-of-a-kind Periapp Blue Lightning cable. All you have to do is follow me on Twitter and then tweet me at Josh Valor that you want the cable. Now, this is the last of the LCD reviews, so as promised, 24 hours after this video goes public, I will pick a winner and announce it in my next video, get it all sent over to you. You don't have to pay for shipping as long as you're in America. Okay, so if you're noticing that these reviews are looking a little bit different, it's because I've actually switched up the style a lot, and it's not just the coloration of everything, it's not just the look of everything. It actually has a lot to do with the structure of the review in general. So this is going to be a little bit different, and I'm going to kind of feel it out for a couple of videos, see how it goes. So this is the first implementation of that. So let's go ahead and start this off. Rather than with build, let's start with sound. So overall, I would explain the sound of this headphone as being beautiful, yet aggressively detailed. There is information everywhere, in every sense of the word. I mean, if you want to talk about the information that's in the highest notes of the cymbal, or in the room that the instruments are being played in, you want to visualize every single instrument within the given soundstage that it has, you can do that. If you want to hear the lowest of low notes, you can do that. If you want to hear the nuances of vocals, you can do that. To my personal taste, this is a nearly perfect headphone. This is one of my favorite headphones overall. And if you're wondering what the total score, I'm not going to hide it. This is going to be a 10 out of 10 for me. This is a nearly flawless headphone with a couple caveats, couple quirks here and there that I'll go over. But overall, this to me is the complete package. And if I believed in an endgame headphone, this would probably be it. So let's go ahead and jump into the nuances of sound, starting with treble. So this headphone's treble is managed perfectly. It's just right enough to maintain detail, maintain clarity, maintain all the presence you would want and ever would need from your highs in order to get any sort of detail or nuance without being too bright. And I'm a person who's particularly bright sensitive, but I do like top end detail. And normally when I am listening to a headphone, it's a compromise. DT 1990s, for example, those headphones are too bright for me, but I appreciate the resolution in the top end, that detail in the top end, even though when I'm listening to it, it can be really fatiguing because I personally consider them to be a little bit too bright. And when it comes to treble, usually I have an option between brightness yet high resolution or low resolution with reduced brights. And personally, what I gravitate towards is slightly less resolving to compensate for that lack of highs. And with this headphone, it's a zero compromises headphone. I don't have to have a bright sound signature in the top end, yet it is still extremely detailed. Now this is going to be my personal taste, but the highs on this headphone are absolutely perfect for what I like. It's detailed, yet not too bright. Now I'm recording this video after RMAF, and I did all the testing for this headphone after RMAF, and this is after hearing the LCD 4s, the Abyss, the Diana, the Ether 2, the Voce, the Auteur, etc. I heard a lot of top-end headphones, and when I came home, this headphone competes with them all. So let's merge into mid-range here. Now with mid-range, what you get is slightly recessed upper mid-range and a kind of a girthy, more present lower mid-range. Now, I understand that this isn't going to be the most perfectly measuring headphone in the world. It does measure fairly well compared to some other headphones, but according to Interfidelity's measurements, you can see kind of a roll off after about 1,000 hertz, going into the slightly more uneven upper ranges. And what this actually results in is vocals, especially female vocals, that have a really, really solid amount of detail, very angelic, very stoic female vocals, but they're not shouty. And to me, that was something that was very pleasant. I was still getting female vocals that came across very sprightly, but without being overly aggressive, overly shouty, or overly harsh to my ear. Now, when it comes to the lower mid-range, it definitely kind of ramps up a little bit and comes with a little bit more impact and a little bit more girth. So when you're talking about male vocals, they have a lot of presence, a lot of power, and a lot of heft to the male vocals. When it comes to texture, detail, and nuance, this headphone kind of competes with the best here. I mean, this is really a shining example of what I think a headphone should sound like, and this could be a new reference, not just for the top end, not just for the mid-range, but also the bass extension. The bass extension is just beautiful. It's powerful. It extends very, very low, and you can hear 20 to 30 hertz very, very clearly. There's enough power to still keep kind of bassier people satisfied, I would say, because I'm a person who loves bass. I like a solid, thick amount of bass, and this headphone has it. But it's also not overdone. It's not what I would consider to be inaccurate or oversaturated. It has bass that's, I want to describe as thick, but that's not quite the right word. It's very neutral, it's very clean, but it's not soft, it's not doughy. It's very firm bass without being overly thick or boomy. And the detail on the top end and the mid-range really does continue down to the bass response. And when it comes to all the main frequency areas, being the treble, the mid-range, and the bass, if I were to EQ these, I really wouldn't change much at all with them. If I'm being completely honest, I messed around with it a little bit. I know that there are some people who have maybe more specific taste and they would kind of manipulate it to be more what they want. But for my taste, what I like, they're just about perfect. There's not really much to complain about for me. Now, something that is going to be a consideration for a lot of people, and is something that I like, but you may not, is going to be the implementation of the imaging in the Soundstage. The imaging, I don't think anybody would complain about. It is an exceptionally strong imaging headphone. But it isn't a very wide headphone in terms of Soundstage. It doesn't get very wide. I would say that it's not as narrow as like a HC 600 or 650, but it is a little bit more narrow than what I would consider the average headphone to be. It does have a very accurate representation of what seems close and what seems far, but the far out parts do not seem extremely far out. And I would assume that this is part of what keeps this headphone feeling so attentive and so detailed, is having a very kind of aggressive sound signature to it. Not in terms of feeling overly harsh or anything like that, but having the large amount of detail that it has, and the delivery of the Soundstage, it's very, very close. You could almost imagine the delivery as being like extreme HT 600s. Not quite as intimate, but you get that intensity there. Now, let's be clear, I'm not saying those headphones sound alike, because they don't. I think the X's sound far and above better than the 600s. But I'm hoping that that intensity is going to come across, and that's kind of what you could expect if you were to look at getting this headphone. So if you are looking into getting this headphone, what are you getting with this headphone? This is the heaviest LCD that I've tried besides maybe the 4, but I didn't have them back to back to test. But going off of memory, the 4 was a little bit heavier. It is a complete metal housing. It's got metal grills, it's got metal surrounds, it's got metal brackets. This one has the old school headband. The new headband, which would come with it if you bought this new now, is going to be much more comfortable and a little bit lighter too. These are a very heavy headphone, and if you have really big ears, these do have a phaser inside them. You can actually see it right there. And that may touch your ears, and that may bug your ears a little bit. Now, the weight of this headphone doesn't bug me, but I know it may bug some of you. So overall, this is a heavy headphone, but it is extremely well built, and I don't see this falling apart anytime soon. Now, the next thing for you to calculate is going to be the power requirements. And the beautiful part about this headphone, it is a 20 ohm headphone with a sensitivity level of 103 decibels, which means that you can literally run this off of anything. I found very little to no difference between going from my phone to an Origin G2 to the 1 amp back there out of the balanced output, which for an audiophile to say is like, what? Over the weekend, me and DMS were interviewing Songcar with Audeze, and while we were talking before we had the interview set up, I specifically asked him about the LCDX because I really liked it that much. And he specifically talked to me about the LCDX and kind of the design philosophy behind it, and it's really meant to be powered to complete and total sound quality off of minimal power. And that's exactly what you get with this headphone. And I'm not just saying that because he said. I had these thoughts way back when. I've had this for almost 2 months now. I've had this headphone for a long time. And one of the main benefits for this headphone is you don't need an amplifier. So you don't have to really factor that into your cost. Now, would I recommend getting something small and versatile for like desktop, like the Origin G2? Absolutely. In fact, the owner who sent this to me had a little Origin Plus. The G2 works with Windows 10, which is why I bring that one up specifically. And I think that is a perfect amplifier for this headphone. It's detailed and it's clear, and on high gain, it has way more than enough power. It's got the versatility of optical, USB, etc. And you can use it as a line out. So it's got a lot of versatility for a little amplifier. And even though these things are monsters in terms of the sound quality, they're not monstrously hungry, which is just super impressive. Okay, so my overall conclusion is that this headphone is actually 100% worth it. And for a $1,200 headphone, if you look back at my video history, if you look at the more expensive options, I'm very, very critical of expensive headphones. And I was very, very critical of this headphone as well. But I just didn't really find many flaws. I mean, the The weight is one issue. I guess I could see somebody really holding back if they can't wear it for a long period of time. They really want something lighter. That's definitely a consideration that you would have to make personally. But between the build quality, the power requirements, this being able to be driven off of pretty much anything at all, and most importantly for me, the sound quality. Everything that I would want in a headphone is here. It's got that really holographic sound that I look for, of being able to feel the room around me and being able to feel like I am a part of the music while having detailed high end, detailed mid range, exceptional vocals, while having a great and strong bass response. I don't have any problems with this. And if you're going to buy this headphone as a professional or for personal reasons, I can recommend it for both. So there's no caveats to this headphone other than the price tag. But that's going to be a decision you would make. That's the information that I have to bring you today. I hope you guys like this review. If you want early access to videos like this one, you can consider supporting me on Patreon. I'll have these videos out 3 days early. Thanks very much, guys. Have a good one. Bye.